Welcome, one and all, to another edition of the Defo Show with Luby here on the 5 Reasons Sports Network, brought to you by Water Cleanup of Florida. No one likes to hear the dreaded terms, water issues or fire issues with their home or office. But because of Water Cleanup of Florida, they won't be so dreaded anymore because they have service 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. All you got to do is call 954-579-0356 any time of the day, any day of the week. They will take care of you. Michael, Robert, George, their entire team brings you well more than 60 years of combined experience and certified licensed insured contractors, which not everyone has. Instead of having to go find someone to fix your problem and find another group to make it look brand new, which are two totally different things, they can do it all. Fix the problem and make it look brand new. And unlike a lot of service companies, they will actually return your calls. They'll actually schedule appointments. They'll make the appointments on time, if not early. And throughout the process, any questions, issues you have, they'll be in communication with you at all times. You know how I know this? I used them. My wife and I called Water Cleanup of Florida when we had a water issue, and I was amazed at how well they handled the problem. And it wasn't just because I'm me. I've talked to many people who have worked with them. You go to Google, well over 85-star reviews with Water Cleanup of Florida, because they not only have great service, which isn't always the case with service companies, but they do a fantastic job. Call them 954-579-0356. Check them out on their website, wcufl.com. Also on the socials at Water Cleanup FL. As someone who's used them, worked with them, believe me, if you have the schmutz, Water Cleanup of Florida has the guts. Dave Hyde's a man that has all the guts. He's dealt with decades of South Florida futility when it comes to sports. Right now, we're enjoying a South Florida resurgence in sports. We talked a lot about the Miami Heat and their 5-game win streak from 1-4 to 6-4. Talked about the FAU Owls basketball, Miami Hurricanes men's basketball, Miami Marlins with their pick of GM from the very successful Tampa Bay Rays. Talked about the South Florida sports scene with one of the longest tenured South Florida sports writers, the one and only Dave Hyde, here, the Defo Show with Luby on the 5 Reasons Sports Network.
Here's a guy who never quits, man. I hope he does this to his grave, and I hope that's a date that is long and far away in the distance, as we welcome the preeminent columnist here in South Florida over many, many years. Just does a dynamite job of covering the local scene and perspective on the national scene as well. And a great American. We welcome Dave Hyde to the program from the Sun Sentinel. David, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing well. Here we are, November now, and
oh my God,
getting through some football seasons, huh? Wow.
Oh, really? Yeah. When you start looking and go, wait a minute, there's only like a couple of games left in the college season. And, now that they've extended the NFL season to 17 games, it still has some shelf life left on it. But and they started a little late this year. And it's been fascinating from many different aspects. But I wanted to start with this. Were you at the press conference yesterday with, and I keep wanting to call him William Bendix after the old actor, but Peter Bendix being introduced as the new president of operations for the Marlins. I thought I saw you there.
Yeah, I was there, and the Marlins. I remember sitting there talking to Don Mattingly when he was leaving, and he was saying that this organization just needs to figure it out because they don't have the model, and Tampa Bay has the model. So here you go. Bruce Sherman went out and got a piece of the model to bring to. They're going to try to be the Marlin Rays now and see if they can make it work this way.
All right. I mean, what are we getting here? Before we get going on that, though, your general feeling. Now, I've been to many an introductory press conference, and we've been to many exiting press conferences as well. Not just here in South Florida. I was there when Tommy Lasorda was introduced as a manager of the Dodgers, and you got all caught up in this thing where he bleeds Dodger blue, and that turned out to be somewhat true. But you do get a lot of bullshit at these introductory press conferences. So what did you take away from this one?
Well, look, everything sounds good when the guy's coming in the door, doesn't it? You see his plan, his vision, his ideas. He was a general manager in Tampa Bay. And look, part of baseball anymore, you got to know what the title means. Okay, The general manager isn't what old school general manager was, because there was the president of baseball operations above him, and So
Yeah.
what was his official role? What's he bringing here? But he rose up. He's sort of the Eric Spoelstra of Tampa Bay, as several of these guys out of the Tampa Bay pipeline are. He rose up from the bottom. He was an intern. He presented a research paper from Tufts College to get an internship at Tampa Bay, a baseball analytics piece that he wrote while in college, and so for 15 years he learned the Tampa Bay way, and that's the model for the small market teams. They draft well, they develop well, they fleece teams with trades, they are creative thinkers. They're the ones who put the shift in baseball and brought the openers, relievers, starting games. They do a lot of things. They've done things differently and creatively to make up for the margins that they don't have in money. And so, you can see the attraction and why Bruce Sherman went out and got Bendix. But the question always comes down to the guy, and can he perform as the boss now, not the number two in charge, and can he make it work here where so many people haven't?
That is true. A guy could be the general manager, and you don't know if the bat boy didn't have more influence on what the performance of the team is going to be on the field. We talked with Glenn Geffner about this when the announcement was made, and Glenn, a very knowledgeable baseball guy, and certainly has intimate knowledge of the Marlins organization and its potential for failure. As he was let go after doing a great job for many, many years and being a big favorite of the fans that were listening to the radio broadcast of the games, which I would imagine those numbers are declining. So, it begs the magic question: do you really need a solid professional in that spot if nobody's listening? But that being said, he sort of questioned, the level of credentials that this guy had. And much like you stated, said that there's a lot to prove here. It's not like you're just plugging into the Tampa Bay system. We don't know at what level this guy, had any influence on the Tampa Bay system. So hopefully he learned his lessons well, and the team can. Does that? I mean, we were mortified when they let go of Kim Ng because we had finally come to really, like the moves that she made, and thought, wow, this woman is one of the first in a long, long time to be making moves that actually worked out. Got the team to the playoffs. Does this take care of that mortification of the flesh that we experienced when we thought once again here's the franchise that just determined to self-sabotage?
Well, yeah. Look, how they won last year wasn't sustainable. Last in the league in runs, second to last in defense, 8 out of 15 in team ERA. I mean, that's just how they won was a historical record in one-run games, and that's not the way you win. They have nobody coming up from the minor leagues who could play everyday lineup. The drafting under the Jeter regime was awful, and so what I get what Sherman's doing. Kim Ng's talents isn't for building out the larger organization. It's not to. She hasn't, according to people inside, her knowledge of building up the minor leagues and developing players. That's not who she is. And so, did Bruce Sherman want to give her a chance to do that? I guess not. So, I get what Bruce Sherman is doing. It all hinges on Bendix, and nobody has any idea. I'm sure Sherman has some idea of what he can do, but it's a leap in the dark at some point, as every one of these hires is when you hand over the keys to somebody like this. It's tougher. There's been like 5. There are like 5 Tampa Bay guys, front office guys now running teams. That tells you how popular they are and the model is. And it's not just small market team stuff. The originator of the Tampa Bay way, what's Andrew Friedman? I'm getting the name right. Who runs the Dodgers?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, it was Andrew.
Yeah, he's with the Dodgers.
Yeah. And then, of course, you had Bloom in Boston. He just got fired. So they've gone on to run try to run big organizations too. Milwaukee's Tampa.
Yes, he's a Tampa
Bay guy.
Yep,
Houston, the GM for a few years. He just left after 2022. Now he's in Toronto. So this is a popular thing to do. Go in and grab the highest ranking Tampa Bay guy you can get and bring him in and bring that methodology to your team. So will it work? I have no idea. Bendick struck me as sort of the Jonah Hill character.
I was just going to ask if Jonah Hill was there to study his.
That was him. That's him.
His mannerisms.
He sounds like him. He acts like him. He's a very nice, little self-deprecating humor, and but on the wonkish/nerdy side.
All right, maybe that's what we need. Let's hope that infuses a whole new energy into the organization, and that they will persist in being a playoff contender, at least for years into the future, but with a total remake after the Jeter disaster. All right, we have a couple of hot teams in town, and some new things are starting up as well. Let's start with the Miami Heat, who got off to a little bit of a thud of a beginning to the season, and you were asking yourself, I mean, how much did this whole Damian Lillard pursuit take out of them? They did lose a couple of guys in Vincent and Strus. We watched Strus go for 40 and 20 one night in a new location, and with Cleveland. And you're thinking, oh my God! I mean, I'm watching Vincent making assists. He's dishing the ball off to LeBron, and you're thinking to yourself, we're really going to suffer. Duncan Robinson, and I like this when this happens. I don't know if you've written about Duncan Robinson. Maybe too early to consider this a complete resurgence, but I mean, this guy, I love when the narrative, just reverses on somebody. This was a did not play coach's decision a lot last year, and all of a sudden he's your leading scorer. Is that what? I mean, do we attribute that to the occult of Heat culture? Or, I mean, how the hell are they doing this? They're red hot right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's always fascinating to me how the Heat develops players, and what they do. And I remember talking to Duncan Robinson, how they develop him into being this guy who comes off the bench and scores. Back in the day, now he's obviously come through a few stages, but when he was unknown, and he said what they did was in every pregame when everybody else was warming up, he'd sit on the bench, run to the mock scorers table, pretend to check in, come in the game. They run a play. There's no defenders. They run a play for him. The coach passes him the ball, and he shoots. If he makes it, he runs another play and shoots. If he misses it, he goes back to the bench and starts the process all over. So it's just interesting. They have, great thought pattern on how to develop players, and they get the right players who want to work and all that. So, and Spoelstra, his methods are proven out over time that his teams are going to be better in April than they are in October and November. So when is it sustainable for this for a couple of the young guys to keep having some big games like this? I don't know, and you probably don't want it when in big games when Jimmy Butler is needed to make those plays and shots and have big games. But the whole NBA season anymore, the regular season, it's to define what guys can do and find players who can develop like's going on right now. It's more than getting a draft seeding like it used to be 15, 20 years ago. Unfortunately, because it means the regular season doesn't mean as much.
All right, and the reason we invited you on the show today, David, is we would like you to explain top to bottom the parameters of the in-season tournament. I mean, obviously intended
is there a dumber thing than this?
Yeah, what is it? I mean, it was intended to stimulate interest in regular season games. It's at the beginning of the regular season, and it seems like it's incomprehensible. I don't know. When does this Heat play their second round game? I mean, it's worse than trying to follow the MLS schedule.
Yeah, and the funny thing, when you say it was to spark interest in the regular season, it wasn't so much for fans as to keep the players interested. You know, they had these rewards, these financial rewards of, you know, you earn this much if you win the in-season tournament and all this stuff. And it's like, this is what it's come to for the players, making, you know, a couple $100,000 a game that they have to make even more money in these in-season tournaments. So, but it tells you the NBA recognizes there's a serious problem in the regular season, and you know, this was a failed attempt at making it more interesting.
It's so scattered. I mean, you would have to think that whoever brought this up and convinced Adam Silver that this was a good idea is in hiding somewhere in like Buenos Aires.
It shows they're desperate. They're desperate, right?
100%.
I mean, I don't even know how it works. I got to be honest with you. Do you?
I really don't. You know what? I tried my best because, you know, like you, I mean, we do this for a living, and, you know, you're thinking, or some kind of a living, and you're thinking, I should know this. I mean, this is, you know, one of the basic things, like how many games are in the regular season, or, you know, what the infield fly rule really is all about. You should know it. It's one of the basics of the job. And I don't get it. I mean, I sort of do and I don't, but I don't understand. What I really don't understand about it, if you want to know, is are two teams going to play one extra game this year? When, you know, the league is, you know, so caught up in the idea that, you know, there are too many games, but they don't want to cut any out and lose any revenue. So they have to deal with this hideous concept of load management, which is another absurdity. But I mean, you know, it just speaks for itself that, you know, you have players telling you they're making $60 million a year, and they're telling you that they can only play, you know, 89-90% of the games, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, they have a problem. They're trying to find solutions, but
yeah,
the ultimate solution. You know, Pat Riley years ago, I remember talking to him, and he came up with the idea. This was in the '90s, and I remember him saying he sent the league a plan at one point to have reduced it to 60 games, split it into thirds, and crown a champion after every 20 games, and those. Somehow that would whoever won each trimester would get a playoff seeding reward or some type of maybe a bye or something like that, and that was his. You know, so even in the '90s, I guess what I'm saying that it was recognized that there are a lot of games, and it's hard to pretend. You know, at 82 games in the NBA that they all have consequence.
It's amazing. Yeah. All right. So the Heat, how would you rate them right now? I mean, are they legitimate contenders? Luby was upset with the team's beginning. We do know this, as you pointed out, Dave, that Spoelstra has a tendency to have teams get better as the season progresses. I don't know that was well illustrated during the regular season last year when it looked like the Heat might not even make the postseason, but it certainly came true in the postseason as the team was playing far and away its best basketball at any time during the year. How do they stack up? I mean, we're watching the Celtics. They get off to a tremendous start. A lot of people thought they were going to be very good, and they are so far. Milwaukee, I'm not sure that they're as good as people anticipated, but it's early yet, and they're getting used to Damian Lillard being in the lineup. Had a big win last night. Philadelphia certainly looms as a contender, you would think. You know, and a couple of others. People in New York think the Knicks are good. Where do the Heat? Where do they rank in you know, the hierarchy of the Eastern Conference and the league overall?
Well, they've got off to a fine start. Here's the question: has anything happened in the first 10 games of the year to adjust your thinking going into the season? I mean, in other words, unless there's a major injury, I think that Milwaukee and Boston, maybe Boston first and then Milwaukee, will be the two best teams in the East. And then you come to a few other teams. The Heat I would put probably third, and you know because of what they did last year and just what they've shown going to two of the past four NBA finals. But I'm not sure anything can happen in the regular season to change that thinking.
Injury.
Other than
I mean, like if Lillard gets hurt, like Lillard, they already said he's trying to flirt with injury. Like Lillard getting hurt, which he's done the last 2 years, is the thing that could sort of And the Celtics,
Yeah.
I mean, the same kind of a thing. Those guys can get injured. That's really it. I mean, other than that, you're right. The play on the court, like we know what it is.
Yeah, and with the Heat, you're looking, okay, can Tyler Hero, can he grow out his game from just being a scorer? Okay, he's doing that some. It's not happening at the defensive side, which is, one of the Heat's, tenets was always to take two-way players. That's what they want. Now, when you're drafting in the, lower in the draft, you take a good player where you can get it. But investing, I guess, is what I mean. They invest in two-way players, and so can Tyler Hero become an average defender? That's something to look at. And then they have the 3 or 4 other guys who are young and rising. And I mean, Jokic looks like he's kind of an interesting talent at times when you see him. Still young, but where's he going to be in, if not April, then a year from now? But those are sort of the things I'm looking with the Heat.
All right, the Cats are also on fire.
And of course, what do they do with Kyle Lowry?
Lowry.
That's the question.
This guy was just talking about Lowry. Yeah.
Oh God, he's about $29 million of salary cap ballast to trade to that expiring contract that some team will want the trade deadline, and because they need a point guard. I mean, or not in the fourth quarter because Jimmy Butler or Hero or Adebayo will be handing the ball. But for the rest of the game, it'd be help over an 82-game season to have a point guard.
Didn't Lowry have like one good game?
He's had a couple
so far.
He's had a couple.
He wasn't dressed for this last game.
And then he doesn't play.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
But,
I mean, you get as you get older. One game, and it isn't. You can't have a good game. You just can't have them consistently, and there's no. That's just not going to work this year.
All right. Caruso, man. Somebody brought this up. George.
I love Caruso,
George Gonzalez. I love Caruso, man. I loved him when he was with the Lakers. Real hustling son of a gun. But I don't know that he solves your problem at point guard, as Louie pointed out to the person on the chat line. All right, the Cats, the Panthers, Dave Hyde of the Sun Sentinel with us here on the show. Get off also to a bit of a slow start. And, wow, I mean, you talk about turning it on. They look great of late.
Yeah.
And are sitting there, you have Boston out to this hellacious start at 11-1-2. And the Panthers, I'm looking in the standings, and they really have just taken, a meteoric rise from where they were just a couple of weeks ago. And now we're sitting there at like 9-4-1 and looking like the team that made it all the way to the finals last year.
Yeah, well, I starting in game 1, I went down there 20 players who were active. 9 of them weren't on the team last year. So it took them a little time to. You talk about, they won they went to the finals, so they're gonna step right back. Well, they stepped in with a lot of changes on the lineup. Some of that's because of injury. Bennett's back, but Ekblad and Montour on the defense still aren't back, and so they're going to add talent as they go along. And there's other questions like Kane has now been on the trading block from Chicago. Are they interested in that? But like Bobrovsky had a great game on Sunday, and that's things like that are really important. That he's had a nice start to the season because the question was, okay, he ended the second half of last year in the playoffs really good. Is that now who he is? Is he back to being that player, which he hadn't been for the first couple of years with the Panthers? And it looks like he is, and you can bank on that. Okay, he's going to be a big time player at the position. You have to have a big time player.
I certainly don't have the same faith in him I had in the Gump when I was watching the Rangers back in the 60s. It was less scoring in the league back then. A 2-1 game was considered, an over with the odds makers. All right, college basketball. Seen a couple of games so far. There was the big debut at the Garden of Rick Pitino in St. John's. That was, a bomb. And I'm looking through the scores. I see UM FIU. And I was saying earlier on the show, Dave, that I thought I was at the DMV. And the final was 86-80. So a very tight game. The Hurricanes were just smoked for a period of time, a 14-minute span. I think they were outscored something to the tune of 42-13. It was. I mean, are they got this transfer that Luby loves from Florida State? He hates that he left Florida State, but at least he landed here. How do they shape up? How do they stack up, the Hurricane basketball team, by comparison to what you saw out there last year when they went to the Final Four?
Well, they still got great talent. They lost the two top scorers, but lost
Isaiah Wong and Jordan Miller.
Both
two
of
good
them
contributors.
Went the second round. Both went the second round of the NBA, so that tells you the talent. They lost some talent, and the one thing they're going to have, same problem.
Isaiah Wong,
and
Jordan Miller,
Isaiah Wong. They're not a big team, okay.
No.
But again, Larinaga sort of like Spoelstra, that his teams get better through the years. He finds how players work. He finds how to fit roles for everybody. And I talked to him before the season, said that the main thing they're dealing with is or talking to players about is staying in the moment. And probably the FIU game is an example of that, where, they got ahead of themselves looking somewhere else or thinking about a game coming up or something, and didn't really pay attention enough to FIU. And so that's the question. Look, this is, if you're a basketball fan, you're in Mecca right now, and the best part is you can't get ticket to any game. Like FAU sold out now.
Oh, yeah.
They sold out their arena. They put an extra row of seats, courtside seats, and sold them for $3,000 a season ticket.
Wow!
And sold those out.
I thought they were going to stay at night.
No, it's not the heat.
I think they're going to request the city of Boca put a dome on the football stadium there. I can hear Schnellenberger from the grave saying, "I had a vision." And
they're wishing they had a 6,000 seat stadium about now instead of a 3,000 seat arena. So, but you got them, FAU, and Nova Southeastern Division II champs, in which Jim Crutchfield plays a style of basketball you've never seen in your life.
We need to get there. Can you arrange with Sarney? That we all go out and watch your team play one time.
So between them and the Heat, if you're a basketball junkie, this is Mecca for you, because no one has better basketball, and it's surprising to say, because this is South Florida, but no area has better basketball than us right now.
Yeah.
I remember Kevin Presto hoisting him in the Night Center for Bill Foster and thinking, this ain't going to work. What is this shit?
I remember Tito Horford, and then I interviewed Tito Horford when Al Horford was playing against the Heat in the playoff series. So that's where we are right now.
I mean, and we were optimistic that it was going to work, and then it looked like a total bust. And got resurrected a little bit towards the end of the Leonard Hamilton run, unfortunately, an old credo applies: never let the outgoing coach pick the incoming coach.
Yeah.
And he foisted Perry Clark on us, and things didn't get straightened out again until Jim Larinaga came in. Dave, you're very generous with your time, and of course, on top of everything, which is great. That's why we love having you on the show here, is try to get a little synopsis of the local scene. What are you working on? Anything special coming up in the Sun Sentinel? Any books? Any movie rights being negotiated?
Kat, I'd like to turn the Jimmy Johnson book into a movie, right? So anybody who knows
who plays Jimmy in the Jimmy Johnson story? Can we think of
Jimmy? Who would play Jimmy other than Jimmy? Who would give me? Come on, Luby, you're a movie guy. Who you got?
I have no idea.
Giamatti? I mean, maybe. I don't know. He can play anybody. This guy, he's great. I don't know.
He represents a Jimmy. Big attitude. Who's got a big attitude? You'd have to.
Pesci?
There you go, Joe Pesci. Now, he's too much of a mafia guy. And
you can see why I had no future in the casting business.
Yeah, that's bad. You guys are all. You can't play. I can't.
Although Val Kilmer will play Josh McCown, just on the lookalike aspect. Val Kilmer, Josh McCown. If you've seen McCown, man, I mean that is one handsome gentleman. Dave, as are you. Thank you so much.
Poll question.
Pleasure.
Who plays Jimmy? All right, Defo.
I think you ought to put that in the Sun Sentinel, at least in some kind of notes.
Hey, There you go.
And see what
All
the
right,
response
take care.
is. I don't know.
Thanks,
I can't think of that. Dave Hyde, ladies and
Who knows what the end of the year will be for the Miami Heat, but like Dave said, and I agree, they usually are better than they are in April than they are in October, November. And right now, they've won 5 in a row. They started at 1-4. It was very frustrating, very annoying to watch. And they've now gotten to 6-4, right there with some of the top teams in the Eastern Conference, where they belong, where I presume they'll be. And yes, Hero's hurt again, as he's hurt quite often. People will tell you he's not injury prone. That's fine. I don't know what you call it, but it feels like once a month or once every other month he's hurt. But before that, he was playing his best ball of his career, to be really honest. Nice to see Duncan Robinson grow into a more of a well-rounded offensive role. Still not really good defensively, but offensively, he's helping you more than just shooting three-pointers. Jimmy Butler hasn't been himself yet, but he's there. And Bam Adebayo has really taken a step in a tremendous direction, where offensively he showed you flashes. Now he's been consistent offensively in the mid-20s almost every single night. And rebounding, where he was like 5 to 8 a game, would average 9 because he'd give you nice games. He's getting in the double digits almost every night, which is what we know he can do, and it's great to see. The defense has been strong, and it's nice to see the Heat sort of surge right here in the early part of the season. It feels like you're only going to see them be better as the year goes on. Celtics playing well. Bucks dealing with their own injury issues early on. So the Heat right there in the thick of things in the Eastern Conference. The West, it feels like it's the Nuggets and then everyone else. And you're seeing, look, the Warriors have played pretty well. You've seen some of these other teams. The T-Wolves play okay. You know, there's teams sort of hanging around in the West. The Mavs have actually come out to a strong start record-wise. But if you watch the way the Nuggets are playing, they're just on a different level, I think, of everyone in the league. But you know what? You never know. Injuries with that team have always been an issue the last few years. It wasn't at the end of last season. It hasn't been so far. But we shall see. A lot of NBA left to play. The Miami Dolphins, Miami Hurricanes in 2 very different directions. It feels like the Dolphins got a win on the bye as everyone sort of lost around them. The Miami Hurricanes played hard versus the Florida State Seminoles. They still lost by a touchdown. And the second half, if you look at the stats, it wasn't even close. That QB room is sort of a disaster. The defense is better. The defensive line's strong. Linebackers are okay. The secondary is a lot of names that we've heard of but haven't really. Kitchens is a nice safety, but he's not as good as they make him out to be. And James Williams was a great recruit, a physical specimen. He's not really good at football. Their offense is a disaster. I mean, the offensive line's vastly better, but it's still not great. But it's better, and that's what you're looking for in year 2 of Mario Cristobal. The quarterback play sucks. I mean, Tyler McDyke actually has some talent, turns it over at will. Ja'Carri Brown isn't good, and that's why he's not playing. And Emory Williams, kid has a lot of heart. Really does. It's a tough kid. He's not good. Now, again, he's a true freshman, so yeah, he maybe becomes something. He doesn't have a strong arm. He's not an athlete, and it's not like he's even that accurate, to be honest. They have an issue in the QB room. The recruit coming in, Judd Anderson's worse. They need a transfer desperately. They're one of those teams. They're very much like Ole Miss. And Ole Miss actually recruited the quarterback position okay. But they had a lot of talent everywhere. They had issues at quarterback. Go and bring a transfer. And that helped them a lot. We'll see if the UM can fix that QB room. But the issue is for Cristobal, and it's been his issue all the way back to Oregon, he's actually become a good head coach with good defenses and offensive lines. His offenses suck. They're very predictable. They're very conservative. And eventually, yeah, you can play good defense and have a good offensive line and run and stay in games. How many games are you going to win? In Oregon, he got up to 10, 11 wins. But when they had a team that was contending for the playoffs, other teams shut down that offense, and they lost 3 to 4 games almost every year. And yes, they did get to Rose Bowls, and yes, they did win Rose Bowls. What was last year when they were a playoff contender? They lost the last 3 games. Yeah, he went to Miami. He was leaving. Whatever you want to say, he always had a propensity to play down offensively, and that's literally what we're seeing in Miami. It's only year 2. He's not going anywhere. Canes fans can get excited about playing number 4 close. That's fine. More victories are cool. They also lost to Georgia Tech, a bad team. And yeah, Mario screwed around with kneeling. They weren't even, that game shouldn't have been close. Georgia Tech's horrible. They beat, but should have lost to Virginia, a bad team. And then Clemson, and look, Clemson, FSU was happy about that win, so beating Clemson's cool. Clemson has 4 losses, so it's not a juggernaut Clemson team that they beat. They did lose to NC State, who's not that great. And it feels like Louisville is not a win, and Boston College may not be a win. So as much as UM fans are happy that they were close versus Florida State, and they were, it's a 7-point defeat. If they lose to Louisville, they lose to Boston College, you would have started the season 4-0 and finished 2-6. 6-6. Yeah, you make a bowl. Okay. We'll see. We'll see what happens for Miami the rest of this year on the football field. We'll see what happens with the Dolphins as they welcome the streaking Las Vegas Raiders this weekend. A lot going on in the world of sports, and we'll talk about it each and every morning. Check us out, South Florida Live, 8 to 9. Check us out on our national show, 10 to 12, the Tony Bruno Sports Network. Download that app. We also do a show on nofilter.net, which is a very short podcast, nofilter.net, or just go to Google, search The Morning Briefing, Caffeine TV. Appreciate that. And the Believe Network. We have a lot going on there. BLEAV.com, search After Hours. Plus, our South Florida SKU content right here. The Devo Show with the Luby on the 5 Reasons Sports Network.
Hey, folks, Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously, friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. All those ingredients, no pun meant there, are hard to find unless you're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. You see, they encompass all of those attributes. Really, really good food, amazing atmosphere, good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs unmatched, steaks hand-cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. It's the one day, folks, that you can forget about low-carb diets. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in the Plantation, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. First of all, they're not only open for delivery and pickup. All you have to do is go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both pickup and free delivery. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers, Raw Bar and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453-9066.